Everyone and interested parties. This is Michael Murton's professional profile. My professional profile consists of contact information, education, core competency and skills, work history, career trajectory and objectives, and personal insights. The contact information, the best email to get me at is mjmerton@outlook.com or flowlinedesign@outlook.com. My phone number is 412-577-9306, and I'm from the Pittsburgh, PA area. My education is Point Park University. I was there, graduated in 2011, 3.95 GPA, summa cum laude. I then pursued a master's in computer science at Fordham University, but that is incomplete. While I was there, I interned for Fordham football. I was tasked with an internship at Huffington Post, which never materialized through AOL, which I have done beta testing for since I was much younger. I was also tapped to be a part of a financial computing group. Three of us were chosen out of the entire computer science department. They were going to teach us how to run hedge funds, but it just didn't work out. I decided to come back instead of having a cell phone surgically attached to my head. And then freecodecamp.org is a great website that teaches anybody to program, really. You start off with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then you move into AI and other things. Point Park University. I have a BS in Information Technology and Management. I graduated in June of 2011, 3.9 GPA, specialization is in information assurance, and I'm a member of the Alpha Chi Society. Fordham University, I was attempting an MS in computer science in 2012, living on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. Yeah, it was an interesting experience, frequenting the Albanians bar and walking up and down Arthur Avenue. It was an opportunity, a missed opportunity on my part. I had some ideas for creating a ladle scanner using Microsoft Xbox's sensor. We were of getting that together, but never occurred. So I don't have a master's, unfortunately. Responsive web design certification, I finished in March of 2022. I think freecodecamp.org is a great website. Every exercise is synced, and I mean, honestly, a child could do it. A smart child, but a child could learn. I would say ages 8 to 15 would be very adept at utilizing freecodecamp.org. My core competencies and skills: web development, IoT solutions, project management and systems, 3D modeling and game creation, steel industry experience, soft skills and work ethic, and other skills. My web development skills are languages and frameworks, databases, CMS systems, and then I have some accomplishments that I'll highlight later. The languages and frameworks that I know are Node.js, Express, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which is my preferred language, PHP, ASP.NET, and C#. Now, Unity Ingenuity Incorporated uses C# to develop in the Unity platform. C#'s a great language, don't get me wrong, but I do a lot of my work on the web, and I prefer Node.js. Just protect personal preference, and I utilize the React framework. Um, I have two companies. One is called Unity Ingenuity Incorporated. It's a C Corp, and then I have a partnership, which is a subsidiary of Unity Ingenuity, called Flowline Design. We make websites for small businesses in the age of AI, and we make free websites for the homeless, especially homeless veterans. Databases I've experienced with are PostgreSQL, my preference or my preferable database. MariaDB, SQL Server 2008, the first database I used when I was doing ASP and personal websites. And I did some SQL data migrations for a company called SomeSites, who makes cloud software for cemeteries. CMS systems that I have experience with are .NET Nuke or DNN, WordPress, Joomla, WooCommerce, and Drupal. Accomplishments, let's see. I made mathtutor.com, which is my proudest accomplishment, even though it's not up any longer. Um, I really put a lot of work into the 45 exercises that there were. Um, I have a passion for math. I believe that I solved the integral of sine x over x in '97, which Microsoft Mathematics was able to solve after my proof. Whether Microsoft used my proof or not, I don't know, but I think I did solve it. But M Mathematics is a or mathtutor.com was a pretty cool little site, and it proved to me that website design can be fun. Um, yeah, I wish I could show you an example of it here. What else? Full stack design at SemSites. Yeah, I'll get into SemSites more later. Worked for them for a year after coming out of the steel mill, uh, Cleveland Cliffs. It was a good place to work. They weren't pair programming was not their thing. They would isolate programmers, and it was kind of like working in a vacuum. But don't get me wrong, there was teamwork. It's just the programming end of things could have been run differently considering the technology that was coming out at the time with VS Code and pair programming. It would have improved our workflow. But SemSites is a great company. I really don't have any uh, constructive criticism at the moment. Other than that, developed Node.js site for an IoT solution for 187 Incorporated, and developed personal ASP.NET websites that I tracked incoming IPs and just gave some general information on myself. It was fun. It was my first introduction to web programming, really, except for when I was younger and introduced to Visual Basic. My Uncle Bob is a brilliant man and taught me a lot about, the little I learned, could learn from him. Whatever, his knowledge is great. He's an exceptional programmer, and I wish there were more like him. IoT solutions. I developed an IoT for field equipment for 187 Incorporated, built a new control box, programmed a gateway in Lua, uh, made by Sierra, um, used Twilio for event notification, and built working IoT for steel mill equipment, specifically tank guns that are used for spraying on gunning material in the furnaces. Twilio would update the operators and the managers when an event happened, record weights, initial and end weights. It was a slick thing. Nobody else was doing it, so we did it. Um, Project management and systems. project management. I like to say that I am a project manager. I mean, my training in Point Park had a lot to do with project management. UML is a great language. I'm not going to say I'm fluent in it. It's if you can write out UML before you start programming, things are a lot easier, especially with AI. You can get an idea of the classes you want to make and how you want it to interact with the database. Developed quality management system for 187. Um, yeah, we were working on getting ISO'd when I left, just after my father's death. It's family business. My grandfather started um, after he sold Gun 19 to through air repair. Um, it's a long story, but 187 Incorporated has been in business for about 50 years now, and I worked for them for 5. Died, and I went managed parts system or parts program for 187 Incorporated. So our main customer was HWI, Harbison Walker International. Um, I was responsible for getting tank gun parts and any other parts they needed uh, that were applicable to 187 Incorporated. Um, yeah, it was just a matter of communicating with CRS, managing costs, uh, shipping parts, and dealing with McMaster, Carr, and Granger, and other people. Anyways, it was a good experience. I used Libre CAD for equipment projects. The last project I worked on was a spreader. That was my father's final project. I worked on tank guns, which my uncle Mike designed. He was an electrical engineer, turned into welder. Great man. Um, and I'm Microsoft Office proficient. I have some VBA skills. I know what a pivot table is. I can insert a formula. I can type text into cells. Um, Word, I think I'm proficient in PowerPoint. I really enjoy making PowerPoints. Um, Access, I don't use all that much because I prefer Postgres. But anyways, 3D modeling and game creation. I'm a Unity guy. Blender, I bang my head against the wall with Blender. I love it, um, but it could be a career in itself. Photon Unity Network. I, I've only used a little. I mean, Unity Ingenuity is looking to acquire Unity programmers. Um, have to be able to pay them first, right? Programming in Unity utilizes C# for scripting and gaming engine. Um, I've done some scripting. I've made a couple games. Um, I really enjoy game making. I think, you know, for visual learners, if you can make educational games, make them fun. Uh, Incorporating Unity and Ingenuity as a C Corp, uh, we obviously eventually want to go public someday. Um, to incorporate out of Delaware. Steel industry experience. I was a mold maker slash steel pourer at Beaver Valley Alloy Foundry, which is a great foundry. Really smart people working there. Um, I was promoted to laborer, and then I poured a lot of molten steel. Kind of one of my favorite things to do. It's neat watching the hot metal go into the molds, and seeing the end product um, with a finished product. Uh, yeah, I come from a hot metal family, and every male in my family has worked in a steel mill since I know of. And I worked in a steel mill after Beaver Alloy Foundry as a production technician for Cleveland Cliffs. Um, I worked in pits. Essentially, my job was to take a ladle from the LMF to pour in the ton dish. Sales experience in the steel industry. I had the pleasure of driving my older brother, Tom, to different mills around the country and got to meet a lot of the plant managers. Got to troubleshoot some of the stuff with our tank guns. Got to see EAFs working, electric arc furnaces, which is an experience in itself. Walking into a steel mill the first time is like, I don't know, sounds like explosions everywhere. It's interesting. Um, I feel a real connection to the steel industry. In fact, my great great grandfather rolled the first ingot of steel in the country for Cambria Steel. Soft skills and work ethic. I'm a perpetual student. I love to learn. I'm constantly teaching myself through reading and on the internet. But I prefer reading. Um, it's tough to find a good video. Uh, I believe I trained pretty quickly. I have a strong academic record. I was summa cum laude. Um, most of my jobs, I, I show up. I want to show up. You know, because if you're not there, you're not going to get the job done. Committed to on-time project completion. Yes, I mean, if you're going to do something, do it. Um, Proponent of paired programming and agile development. If there's nothing else I learned at some sites, it was that. Just that when you have two eyeballs on a situation, you know, once that eyeball fails, you still got the other. And two heads are better than one. I mean, that's really cliche, but it's the truth. Um, Customer service experience with 187 Incorporated and Marketable Services. Yeah, like I said, I was dealing with CSRs all the time. Um, Answering their questions and taking care of their problems. Marketable services, high-end painting. You walk into somebody's home, you have to behave a certain way. Um, and teamwork experience. Some sites, I mean, we work together. We were constantly working with sales and um, the programmers worked together. There was a system where, our code was checked and I worked with customers there and, had to provide them with deliverables. Wasn't an easy job, but it was very valuable. Oh, I'm sorry. This networking authentication authorization, and I can't read the bottom one. Sorry. Um, Networking, I learned a little bit through my internship with Patent Computer Services and through my bachelor's. Authentication and authorization is vital today. Federated authentication is uh, the way, not of the future, it's already here, and it's, one sign in to get in everywhere. That's what it's going to be eventually, I guess, depending on who you choose, Microsoft, Google, or me out of China. Okay, work history. Some Sites Incorporated. I was a software engineer. M&M Design. I started my own web development company. 187 Incorporated, a family business that I worked for 5 years, and I had prior experience with them, working at the plant and driving from customer to customer. Beaver Alloy Foundry is just a foundry, not just a foundry, excuse me. It's a very good foundry in Monaco, PA. Cleveland Cliffs is a huge company. It's quite the learning experience. Marketable Services is, I would like to say, the best painting company in Pittsburgh. And Patent Computer Services um, is a wonderful small business provider. I mean, IT provider for small businesses. They really go above and beyond. So, some sites. I worked there from January 2023 to September 2023. I was full stack PHP web developer. We used WordPress with a lot of custom code. We maintained over 200 WordPress sites And the data migrations into MariaDB, that was probably the hardest part of it, because you have to get the data in, and it comes in all different kinds of forms. And, if the data's on the right structure, you're not going to build a website over it. And the customers, I mean, these are cemetery records, people. You can't lose them. People get very upset. M&M Design, um, founded it once I left 187. Um, it's still current. I don't really use the name. We started a company about 3 months ago called Flowline Design. We have websites, and it's a good company. My partner specializes in copyright. I handle most of the coding. Um, Not bad. We're still working with our first customer. We uh, we revamped and upgraded a Squarespace site from 7.0 to 7.1, and it's for a customer in the Oriental rugs business. Um, it's very interesting, the work we're doing, um, utilizing AI and some other technologies. I created mathtutor.com, as I spoke of before, and I have CMS experience with DNN, WordPress, Joomla, and WooCommerce. 187 Incorporated started working in 2013 or 2014, depending who you asked. It was 2013, but my role initially was building the office, so um, it was different than refractory work. I developed an IoT system for field equipment, as I spoke of before, managed parts program for 5 years, helped develop quality management system, and there were no furnace shutdowns for over 40 customers in the time that I was there, which means that I at least supplied the right parts, and HWI did their job. Bill, work history, Beaver Valley Alloy Foundry. I ended up a mold maker there. After pouring steel, I was there from September 21 to December 22. Promoted from laborer to mold maker and steel pourer. Responsible for making the sand molds. Operated heavy machinery like cranes, forklifts, bobcats, and jackhammers. And poured molten metal. Like I said, one of my favorite things to do. If I could do anything, and I was skilled enough, I would make statues of the people I admire, uh, made of molten metal, kind of like the Art Rooney statue in front of Acrisure Stadium, or the Richard Caligiuri statue in front of the building, I think it is. Cleveland Cliffs. I was there from February 2022 to December 2023. Or no, December 2022. Sorry. Um, that was one of the most impactful experiences I had. Just the scale of everything in a steel mill is amazing, and to see a was it 75-ton ladle. Uh, it's just it's amazing that humanity can do such things. Um, People work hard in the mills. Um, it's dangerous, uh, but it's rewarding. I mean, really, the people in the steel mills are of a certain cut or ilk that I really admire, and it's character building. Well, Services Incorporated was my first job as an adult when I was 18. I went and painted a funeral home for Marketable Services. It was called Sampson Funeral Home. Was up on a 60-foot ladder at 18, painting a window, first day out there. And It's a little trial by fire, but um, really marketable services hires the best, and SAP is a dear friend. Patent computer services. Depending on who you ask, I worked there from 2008 to 2010. Um, it might have been more 2009 and 2010. I was there about a year while I was going to school. I think it was 2009 and 2010. Learned small business IT infrastructure, gained networking experience and experience with customers. Uh, Working with Greg there was a pleasure. He's a tough man that knows his business. Career trajectory and objectives. Current objectives, past objectives, and desired work environment. My current objectives are either build IT solutions in the steel industry uh, for $85,000 a year, manage, have a management position in the refractory field. I'm tempted. I would go back to work for my family. Whether they would want to work with me is another story. I Refractories are integral to not only the economy but to national security. Um, it's a really interesting industry, not very well known. Um, it's dangerous because a refractory is a high temperature building material, so you're around high heat all the time. And if a refractory fails, there's problems. Um, or a management position in the steel industry, maybe dealing with the refractories, or not. Maybe I could learn a little more metallurgy. I mean, I definitely could. Being an indie game developer, I mean, I do it. I, I have a corporation that does it, but to truly be successful at it, you know, is going to be difficult. And if I don't do it, I'll make it a hobby. I really enjoy it. PHP development position, not so much. I mean, I'm leaning towards Node. PHP is it's good. Don't get me wrong. Facebook is written in PHP, and with their hip hop framework, they're pretty tough. Facebook's a great program, but I'm more on the Node side these days. Data analytics and process automation, $65,000 a year. I could learn more about data analysis. That's why I would want 65 instead of 85. Um, Data's the name of the game these days. You can't build anything without data, and you need mass amounts of it. Everybody's pulling data and trying to put them all in one bucket, one container, um, which is good because data is easier to work with when it's all in one location. Um, I just hope that they don't rule out the small businesses with this, and I hope somebody provides small businesses with a solution that gives them access to these large data pools. Um, Contribute to the defense against talks and serve country. Um, I think organized crime is a major problem in this country. I think the communists are the other. I think that that's really the war. Crime at home and terrorism abroad. Every person we fight normally has a gun made by either China or Russia. And it's really absurd. I mean, I hope for peace, but we are at war. And gainful employment that turns into a career. That's what I'm most concerned with. I want to do something I like doing. I want to work with people that I can work with, that um, have the same goals, that are talented. Um, there's nothing better than working in a team, um, especially a successful team. One that My past objectives were to acquire a web development position for $65,000 a year, which I did at some sites for about 70 to 75, and yeah, I accomplished that. That's one of my accomplishments. Desired work environment. I want to leverage my existing skills, learn new skills, of course, and be an integral part of a team, which I just basically described. My personal insights. I'm highly influenced by my uncle regarding Node.js. He is a brilliant man, and I identify as an alcoholic, and um, it's a problem for me. I struggle with mental health issues, um, diagnosed bipolar, and I'm on my medication, and it's a chemical imbalance. I was drinking and got into an accident, and I was given phenobarbital with a very high blood alcohol level, which is basically like truth serum or a sedative, but it's a hypnotic. It messed me up for about a week. The family didn't know what to do, and I believe it changed my brain chemistry. Um, Out of it, but it is one of the things I fight with. Self-disclosed background check information. I have a lot of alcoholic-related offenses. Um, it was it has been a problem all my life, and I'm not going to make excuses for it. I just, you know, I wasn't able to drink like a normal human being, and it's unfortunate. My hobbies are golf and rollerblading, reading, swimming, uh, whenever I can, and making video games. But it's not a hobby; it's a job. So that's it. My name is Michael Murton. I am the founder of Unity Ingenuity Incorporated and Flowline Design. I'm more than willing to help anybody with anything that I can, and onward and upward. Tomorrow will be a good day for you.
Welcome to the deep dive. We take your sources, stacks of them sometimes, and really pull out the key insights.
Exactly. And today, we've got something pretty interesting lined up.
We do. We're tracing the really evolving career path of one person, Michael Murton.
Yeah, and our sources are his own documents, resumes, cover letters collected over several years.
So our mission really is to map this out, follow his journey, see how his goals and experiences shifted.
Right, you'll see someone starting strong academically, then branching out in ways you might not expect. It really speaks to adaptability, but also this constant drive to learn.
A perpetual student, as one document puts it.
That's the phrase. It's a great way to frame this deep dive into what that actually looks like in today's, very fluid job market.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The foundational years. Education, early IT exposure.
He definitely built a strong academic base.
Yeah, Point Park University, graduated 2011, Bachelor of Science in Information Technology and Management.
And summa cum laude, no less. A 3.95 GPA. That's impressive.
Really is. Some resumes also mention a specialization in information assurance.
Which becomes relevant later, actually. But the learning didn't stop there, did it?
No. He started a Master of Science in Computer Science at Fordham in 2012. It's noted as incomplete, though.
But then, much later, March 2022, he does a responsive web design code camp.
Right, freecodecamp.org.
And that pattern is interesting, isn't it? Strong uni start, incomplete masters, then a very focused, practical code camp.
It feels very modern, like grabbing the specific skills needed right now, rather than maybe a longer academic track.
Exactly. Agile learning, you could call it.
So his first real taste of tech work. An internship.
Patent Computer Services.
Yeah.
Around 2009, 2010, maybe a bit earlier in some versions.
Okay, and what was he doing there?
Getting hands-on with networking, small business IT infrastructure. He also worked with .NET Nuke and ASP.NET.
Standard stuff for the time. A typical launchpad.
But there's a detail here about influences that's quite striking.
Oh.
He mentions his uncle, who apparently graduated from Cornell's first AI program.
Wow, okay.
Led him to believe that Node.js offered something unique. And that seems to have really steered his early focus towards Node.
Fascinating. Shows how much those personal connections and, bits of advice can shape things.
Absolutely. It's not always a formal career plan.
So building on that foundation, he takes a pretty big step up at 187 Inc.
Yeah, this looks like a significant role, assistant systems manager and parts manager, roughly 2013 or 2014 through to 2018.
Quite a long stint, and a major technical achievement there, right?
Definitely. He developed an IoT solution, Internet of Things, for their field equipment.
Okay, what did that involve?
Well, he actually built a new control box, programmed a gateway using Lua, and created a web API with Node.js.
So end-to-end development.
Pretty much. He even integrated Twilio for notifications, getting alerts to operators about what's happening in the field.
That's practical applied tech. Not just learning it, but building a real system to solve a business problem.
Exactly. And it wasn't just tech either.
Right, the dual role.
Yeah.
Parts manager.
He managed a parts program, helped develop a quality management system, and he notes 5 years of customer service experience.
He even mentions, quite candidly, that he sold price increases.
Yeah, and ensured no shutdowns of furnaces for 40 customers. That shows real business sense, dealing with tough conversations and ensuring operational continuity.
It's a powerful mix, isn't it? The tech skills and that kind of business grit.
Definitely. Then, from there, he seems to have pivoted towards entrepreneurship.
Design, founder, web developer, designer. Starting around May 2018, running through to mid-2021, or maybe even later in some docs.
Yeah, the dates vary slightly, but this period really highlights his drive to create things independently.
And some cool projects came out of this. That educational site, mmathtutor.com.
Right. Built from scratch using HTML Canvas to teach basic math.
Sounds like quite an undertaking. 40 exercises, authentication, scoring, even chat.
He notes he was proud of it, which you can understand, though it's apparently no longer up due to maintenance costs.
The perennial problem for side projects.
Isn't it just? He also built other sites, personal ones, using ASP.NET and SQL Server, another Node.js site with Socket.io, PostgreSQL, and Passport for security.
So really flexing those web development muscles across different stacks.
Absolutely. And working with various CMS platforms, too. DNN, WordPress, Joomla, WooCommerce, Drupal, plus the core languages, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, libraries like Express, Bootstrap, jQuery, the broad skill set.
Very much the full stack capability you need for freelance or running your own design shop.
And it wasn't just web dev. There's a creative streak, too.
Yeah, the 3D modeling,
Yes.
Blender, Art of Illusion, and game development with Unity and Photon Unity Network.
Right. So during this whole phase, his stated goal seems pretty clear.
He wanted a web development job, basically, to supplement his income.
Yeah, targeting around $65,000 a year and explicitly wanting to improve his web dev skills further. A very focused aim at that point.
It shows someone building skills, applying them, having a clear practical goal. It feels like a logical progression.
It does. But the next steps, they aren't quite so linear.
No, just when you think you've got the trajectory figured out tech, maybe freelance tech, it takes some, well, unexpected turns.
Big turns, away from the keyboard, you might say.
Which really speaks volumes about his adaptability, or maybe versatility is the better word.
Perhaps both. So after all that web work, he ends up working as a professional painter.
For Marketable Services, Inc. Dates seem to be around 2020 to 2021, maybe stretching into 2022 on some resumes.
And this wasn't just, odd jobs. It says he worked independently in high-end homes, interior, exterior.
And maintained a perfect attendance record. That keeps popping up.
It does. It shows a certain discipline, right? Regardless of the role. Painting high-end homes requires meticulousness, self-management, a very different skill set.
And then the shift becomes even more dramatic.
Yeah, Beaver Valley Alloy Foundry,
Wow.
mold maker, and steel pourer.
From September 2021 to about January 2023, roughly.
Started as a laborer, got promoted quickly to mold maker, making the molds for casting metal.
And the details here are pretty intense, operating overhead cranes, forklifts, bobcats, even a jackhammer.
And it explicitly says he poured molten metal.
Wow. You just have to pause on that. The heat, the danger, the precision required, worlds away from coding.
Absolutely. And again, perfect attendance noted.
He also had stints as a production technician at Cleveland Cliffs.
February to December 2022.
And more recently, a laborer at R&J Renovations, October 23 to Feb 24.
It really drives home the point that careers aren't always straight lines, does it?
Definitely not. These broad experiences, painting, steelwork, they might seem unrelated to IT, but they build resilience, different kinds of problem-solving skills.
A unique kind of versatility. It makes his professional identity much broader than just web developer or IT guy.
Which brings us to his more recent objectives, which are, well, a bit of a whirlwind, a real kaleidoscope, as you said.
Yeah, especially looking at 2023 and early 2024. After the foundry and renovations, he seems to circle back towards software.
Right, SemSites, Inc., software engineer, January to September 2023.
full-stack PHP developer. Maintaining, it says, over 200 WordPress sites, involved in data migrations with MariaDB.
So significant responsibility there.
You'd think so. But what's really interesting is how he described himself.
He called himself a junior-level programmer.
Consistently. Despite handling all those sites, he really emphasized the teamwork aspect he gained there.
Yeah, learning that working in a vacuum is not conducive to agile programming.
Exactly. And becoming a proponent of pair programming, at least for code reviews, that shows real growth in understanding how software gets built effectively in a team, not just the technical skills.
That's a key insight for anyone in development. Then, almost immediately after SemSites, he starts another venture.
Ingenuity. December 2023, listed as current, aiming to incorporate Unity Ingenuity as a video game company.
And he mentions projects. Cubix V0.1 on Unity Play, another one called MusicMixes.net MVC.
And his objective shifts again. Now it's indie game developer.
Yeah.
He lists all the relevant skills. Unity, Blender, PHP, Node, HTML, CSS, SQL, security aspects, even information assurance pops up again.
It's like he's trying to synthesize all his varied experiences into this one goal.
It seems that way. But he also adds he's interested in industrial applications, especially in steel, and real-world simulations. So even the game dev ambition has layers.
The layers are definitely there, but what's really striking is just how much his stated objectives bounce around in the different documents from this period.
It's almost dizzying. February 2023. Objective is to sell IoT solutions to the steel industry.
Okay, sales focus.
Then just 5 months later, July 2023. Objective is to work with IoT solutions in the steel industry, targeting $85K, but willing to start from the ground floor.
So shift from sales to implementation, specific salary target, but flexible entry point. Quite a change in just a few months.
And then boom, August 2023, applying for an FBI data analyst role.
The objective, contribute to the defense against TOCS, transnational organized crime syndicates, and serve my country.
That's a huge pivot. But like you said earlier, it connects all the way back to that information assurance specialization from university. A full circle moment, almost.
It really is. The sheer range is incredible.
And it doesn't stop. January 2024, suddenly the focus is management. Obtain a management position in the refractory field. Or another version, management position in the steel industry.
Back to heavy industry, but aiming for leadership.
And alongside these very specific goals, you also see more general ones.
Like, to obtain a position utilizing my PHP development skills.
Or even just to obtain gainful employment that will turn into a career, which sounds like someone may be feeling a bit adrift, just wanting stability.
It suggests a real active searching process playing out across these documents.
Absolutely. And his cover letters reinforce this, but also highlight specific strengths he sees as transferable.
Right. He mentions a customer service from 187 and the painting job.
Dealing with high-end clients there.
Teamwork from SemSites.
That agile pair programming experience.
And the management experience from the parts program back at 187.
And he pitches these skills for various roles, including a management and sales training program. He keeps saying he wants an environment to leverage existing skills, learn new skills, and be an integral part of a team.
That collaborative piece, the agile environment, pair programming, it seems really important to him by this stage.
It does. And this whole journey, this constant searching and adapting, it also intersects with some very personal aspects revealed in the sources.
Yeah, there's a remarkable level of candor in one cover letter.
Extremely candid. For a role with the National Council for Mental Well-Being, he writes, I also know what it is like to struggle with mental health issues, as I am an alcoholic of the manic-depressive type. What you are doing is near and dear to my heart.
That's incredibly open for a professional document. It's quite rare to see that level of disclosure.
It really is. And there are also some notes, apparently from an interview source, mentioning background check details related to alcohol offenses, spanning quite a long period, but with the note about only drinking once in the past 6 years preceding the check.
It's sensitive information, but it adds another layer of context to his journey. It reminds you there's a whole person behind the resume points, dealing with life's challenges.
Exactly. And navigating those challenges often builds a certain kind of resilience, doesn't it? Which perhaps fuels some of this adaptability and drive we've been tracing.
So let's try and pull this together for you, the listener. We've just walked through Michael Murton's career path, as told by his own documents.
And it's quite a story. High academic achievement, deep dives into tech like IoT and web development.
Then these really unexpected turns into painting, into steel work.
Followed by a return to tech, but with this constant, almost rapid shifting of career goals from IoT sales to FBI analyst to indie game dev to industrial management.
The documents paint this picture of someone who is truly a perpetual student, constantly learning, adapting, maybe searching.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What does this one person's journey tell you about work today?
Is it about restless ambition? Is it incredible adaptability? Or is it a continuous search for the right place, the right fit?
And how do all those diverse experiences, even the ones that seem totally unrelated, like pouring molten metal and coding a website, how do they ultimately shape a unique professional identity? Maybe one that a purely linear path could never create.
And maybe think about the role personal circumstances, values, even struggles play in shaping these kinds of professional twists and turns.
Lots to mull over as you navigate your own path.